Do you feel like the dysfunctionality of the club goes deeper than Solskjaer? Like for me, just looking at the way that it is, the squad feels totally imbalanced. It feels like there's loads of egos in that dressing room, but not necessarily enough leaders. It feels like you signed players during the summer, maybe off their individual merits rather than what they could bring to your club. And ultimately, sacking the manager, although it may help sort the problem out in the short term, the short termism of Manchester United has been a big issue for a long time now. Do you feel like the problems are resolved simply by changing the manager?
I think some problems are resolved if you get the next managerial appointment correct, and even then you're looking at. I think we're going into a period with Carrick and maybe Fletcher as, and it's like they were part of the failed
That's
coaching
at
staff.
Stamford. That's at
So
Stamford Bridge as well, Ed.
like they're part of the, and Champions League stuff which we need to win, and you think they're part of the failed coaching staff. So how is it they're sticking around? I understand the club have got to look around for an appointment, and the statement which was released said that they are now looking for an interim manager. So they're not even looking for the next permanent manager on a 3-4 year deal. They're looking for someone possibly to see us through to the end of the season. So it looks like it's going to be a while until we know who our next proper manager is. And it's like I said to you guys before, if we wanted Conte, Solskjaer gets sacked straight after the Liverpool game. If we, you know, wanted to get someone like that, it would have already happened. The only reason I think we tried to delay it and delay it and delay it was because nobody was screaming in our faces. And now I think we're going to probably wait for a Poch to possibly come available.
But it
Hope
has to
that
be
Ten
one of
Hag
four,
wants the
doesn't it?
job.
It's what
Zidane.
it can only be
Um,
one of four. Zidane, Rodgers, Pochettino, Ten Hag.
it
It can
can't be
only be one of
Rogers.
those. I agree, mate. You know I agree with you, but it can be. I agree with you. It can't be, but there is a world where that one happens. I think because it was explored. It seemed to actually be. I think you're quite lucky that he's hit a bit of a rough vein of form, but I think there was genuine truth in that with Rodgers.
I, I think he's a good coach. Do you know what I mean? And I think, but that's all. And I think he's obviously an improvement on Ollie. But you can't just go, oh well, he's an improvement on Ollie. We should get him. And I think a club the size of Man United should be looking to get one of their top targets, even if it's trying to force a Ten Hag out of his club, trying to, you know, it doesn't look like Poch is going to last. Zidane doesn't seem to want the job. Apparently, Luis Enrique asked if it was April Fool's Day when he was asked about the job,
No,
which
is that what he
because
said? Is that a
he's
quote?
obviously Spain. I don't know whether it's true or not, but obviously I've read that quote on
I
Twitter
can't
and,
believe
and through.
Adam. Do you know what this is so important, mate? Because do you know you and I always agree on this. You as a Manchester United fan are fully aware of it, and me as a Chelsea fan, perhaps because of the era I grew up, and probably also just because there's a bit of a brain in my head, I'm aware of the stature of Manchester United, the awe in which I hold the club. It's not a football club in the conventional sense. It's an institution of footballing brilliance, right? I always say things like that, and I do mean it. But what comes with that, and the reason I say it is because I didn't think anyone turns down Man United. Like, when people were saying Rodgers, and people go, yeah, but would he leave Leicester? I was like, of course he'd leave Leicester. It's Manchester United. If Luis Enrique has reacted like that, that shows you and demonstrates the damage
I
that has
think
happened to the United brand
it's
since
also I
Fergie.
think it's I think I agree with you, and I think a lot of people look at the club and not want to work with them. So this isn't a defense of those guys. I also think it's because he's super happy with the Spain job, but
Yeah,
it
yeah.
is a damning indictment if someone's coming out and saying those kind of things. And you've got to imagine, like someone like Ten Hag, obviously in name and in those kind of things, Man United's a step up from Ajax. But at Ajax, he's working with a great footballing
Yeah, yeah.
institution.
It's
Do you
an
know what I mean?
amazing
And
club. It's an
and
amazing
he
club.
could he could look at that and think, is it worth risking my reputation on going? Which again, it shows you where where the Glazers have brought Manchester United without Sir Alex Ferguson into this club that just plod along, hoping that they hit upon the right note at some point. Now, you could argue everyone's doing that with managers, but you can set yourself up to be geared for success. And I don't think United have ever truly done that under the Glazers. We spent a lot of money at times, of course, and this isn't a defense of Ollie. Ollie should have got it right this season. He should have got it a lot more right than he did towards the end. But yeah, above the manager, there are issues as well. And you could see that putting managers off. But when we look at the options, you got Zidane, who's apparently holding out for the PSG job or the France job. You could potentially see a world where he ends up at PSG, Poch then goes to Man United. But that's going to take a while to happen if that was to happen. Then you've got, so that's Poch and Zidane. Luis Enrique, obviously no. Ten Hag, he's come out today and said he's not been asked about the Man United job, so he can't really speak about anything, but he's happy at Ajax, etc., etc., as you'd expect him to say. Rodgers says similar at Leicester. Rodgers and Ten Hag probably seem like the most gettable, but even Ten Hag, I can't see that happening straight away. So I
Does
think
this
we're going to end
demonstrate?
up with a stopgap, and who that is. I'd love it to be like a Ralph Rangnick, someone that's a proper footballing guy
Yeah.
and can help steady the ship for a bit. But can you see United getting someone like that? Do you
No,
think that name's even popped up in the boardroom at
no.
United?
Do you think? I know that you and I differ on our valuation of Antonio Conte, but the way that you've just discounted everybody, do you feel like you perhaps have slept a bit and allowing Conte to go to Tottenham and then sacking your manager 2 weeks later is now a mistake, even if
You
you didn't
might
think it was
say
a
that
mistake
in
at
a
the time?
month's time. You might say that in a month's time, but right now, I still feel like that probably would, and I know who might say like no to Antonio Conte is a great coach, but I still don't think that would have worked for the club. Like I could have seen that going wrong very quickly, and
Yes, I agree. There is an, but
for
that's
that reason, I don't think it would have happened even if it was available. It
so.
probably wouldn't
What's
have
gonna
happened.
what? Sorry to put you on the spot here, mate, but what's gonna happen? I, I
I
I actually
genuinely
don't know
don't
what's
know.
gonna happen.
This is why I think they were so desperate to try and make it at least kind of work until the end of the season.
But they
I think they
maybe should
made the
have made it
decision.
work now. Maybe they shouldn't have sacked. Like, if there is no strategy in
You
place, if
can't
there is,
after you lose 4-1 against Watford, can
but
you?
you can't sack somebody without any sort of strategy or plan or idea of where you're going. You've got a massive game at Stamford
It's
Bridge in
true.
6 days' time, 7 days'
It's
time.
true. It's true. I think it probably shows how bad it had got.
Yeah,
Like,
maybe.
with in terms of just heads being gone. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Heads
It,
have,
I, I,
heads have gone in it.
Harry Maguire getting sent off like that.
That
Look,
is
when you play
awful,
with
isn't it?
10 men, that's effectively what's cost you, I think, because if he stays on the pitch, whether I'm not suggesting that Harry Maguire gets the 3 points for United, but I would suggest that 11 men on the pitch probably mean it doesn't end as
We probably draw
viciously
the
as 4-1.
game
Yeah, you probably
and
it
you don't
certainly
get
doesn't
sacked.
end as it doesn't end as viciously as 4, and he probably doesn't get sacked. I agree because the timing of this sacking now, with the options, I mean, whatever you think of Michael Carrick and the future aspirations in management or whatever, going up against Tuchel at Stamford Bridge off the back of playing in Europe, this is a nightmare, isn't it?
I don't. I know the odds aren't great. A great guide, but let me try and bring up some odds for the next permanent Man United manager. Knowing our luck, Michael Carrick will win the next 3 games, and he'll be given
And
the
they'll
job
get
for
sign the
free.
paper. Sign. Yeah.